Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with Sean Languedoc. Hoping I'm pronouncing that right, of Outforce.ai. He's the founder of that company. He's got a nice entrepreneurial track record, I would say. So I think he started his first company during the dot-com boom, AD2 Media. Has been a consultant for quite some time. He's been the CEO at Strata, board member at the A100, entrepreneur in residence for some time, CEO at Payload Technology, Code in Canada, and charter member at C100, which is how I found him. He's now a member of GTM Fund, an investor, and of course, founder and CEO at Outforce. We're gonna discuss about outsourcing in the age of AI today, so this should be a pretty fun conversation. This podcast presented to you by bookwritegpt.com. Bookwritegpt is the number one tool if you want to take all your LinkedIn posts and write a book out of it. So you can go to bookwritegpt.com. It allows you to publish a Kindle book as fast as ever with your own voice, with your own content. Russell, welcome to the pod, aka Russell Sean. Tell
Yeah.
me a bit more about yourself and what you've been up to as of late.
Yeah. So first of all, Russell Sean, only because LinkedIn, to validate my profile, I had to have my first name in the profile with my passport, but I go by Sean. So yeah, it's great to be here. And I really, as I was saying before the podcast, I admire your veracity in getting being a media personality and all the things you're doing at scaling your own operations. So it's very impressive.
Thanks. Thanks. And glad that LinkedIn got to validate your profile because I cannot do it for the hell of it. That I've tried 10 times, and now yesterday they even suspended me because of something related to that. So it's pretty insane what you have to do with LinkedIn to jump through their hoops and circles. But tell me what you're up to nowadays. You recently moved to Quebec. You've done a bunch of startups. You're an investor. You're a board member. How do you occupy your time nowadays?
Mostly on the business that I'm doing now, which is Outforce.ai. I also am the board member of the Trans-Canada Trail, which is this trail of hiking and walking or canoeing and everything that crosses all of Canada. It's fantastic. And we just had a big
Yeah.
board meeting this
It's
weekend
on
in
my
Quebec
bucket
City.
list, by the way.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to walk the full thing or
Okay.
run.
Well, there's a good movie if you take a Air Canada flight in the next little while, there's a movie about somebody who did just that. It took her 4 years.
Nice. I'll Google
So
it for sure.
yeah, so I help other CEOs and mentoring, and that's what I really like to do. Is I'm on the later stage of my career, so I'm trying to give back as much as I can at this stage.
Interesting. And tell me about your career. It started in the dot-com boom, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it started before that. My first company, oh boy, it was an interesting pivot actually. It was Expo '86 in Vancouver, and the world was coming to Vancouver, and I wanted to. And video cameras were just coming out, so my first idea was to rent video cameras. I got a whole bunch of video cameras from all the manufacturers to rent at booths outside the event. And then I also started a outdoor tourism company at the same time. And that turned into a more regular tourism company because no one was going outside of the event because it was so successful. So I had to pivot into something more local. And that was really good.
Interesting. And then I see here the first one that's listed on your LinkedIn is Add to Media. What was that one about?
Yeah, so I had grown a lot of connections with a lot of people in marketing, chief marketing officers. I'd raised money for Vancouver's Olympic bid, and got to know a lot of good people. And I also did sponsorship for a big company called IntraWest, which owned a bunch of ski resorts. So what happened with that era was sort of the early stages of commercialization through web and really giving end users access to data that otherwise was contained within an agency. So think of E-Trade and how it disrupted stock trading, where you pay 15% just for somebody who knew what the price was, whereas you could find that out for yourself on the internet. And Expedia with disrupted what were travel agents. So I thought about what could I build on that I had, which was the network of marketers. And I thought, okay, well, advertising, it is, $250 billion business. It was then. It's probably about $1 trillion business now. But all these spots on television and traditional media were being bought by agencies, and they were getting 15 points on the deal. And I just went to the marketers. I said, "Hey, you could hire some warm bodies, and I can give you access to that information, so you can save all that money." And everyone thought it was a great idea. And I started to get to it, and somebody told me something completely disruptive that totally changed perspective. He said, "That is the stupidest idea I've ever heard," which is kind of fun to hear when you're hearing everybody say, "Go for it." And I said, "Well, what do you know that no one else is telling me, or else that maybe is crazy?" And he said, "Look, why do you think I'm the chief marketing officer of this company?" And he was a big company. He had about a $150 million ad budget. And I said, "Well, because you're smart." Because no, because I don't take risks. I said, "Okay, so that's fair, and you're good." Yeah, he says, "Okay, so what happens today? I have an agency that does all the creative work, and then I have an agency that does the media buying. So let's say a campaign for a product fails. What happens? Well, you fire the agency." Exactly. So what happens if I have all the people working for me that are doing the media buy, and the campaign fails? You get fired. The coach gets fired. So he said that's why it's not going to work. So what I ended up doing is pivoting it to something that actually needed to be done, which was these companies were buying. They're analyzing the media buy based on the value of the audience and the price per audience per vision per view, paper CPP, cost per person, and then or CPM, cost per 1,000 people. And then they were analyzing it on the sale price, trying to optimize sale price. But all the inventory was stale because they were taking the data out of systems that had already processed a bunch of ads. So sellers were selling ads that were already sold to buyers that were analyzing. And by the time they got back to the seller, half the inventory is already sold. So there was no real-time information. And that caused disruptions and literally billions of dollars of what are called make goods, where an ad doesn't run because it was oversold. They have to make up for it with another 4 ads, etc. Anyway, long story short is I created a Rosetta Stone in the middle that helped translate the data between these enterprise systems so they could transact on real time, and that worked out well.
And while you were building this, you also were the head of sponsorship sales at the Vancouver Olympic bid.
No, that was prior to that.
Prior to that.
Yeah.
And tell me a bit more about that one, because you guys won the bid.
We did win the bid, yeah. So first we had to win against Canada, the rest of other cities in Canada, Quebec City and Alberta, Calgary, which already had the Olympics, so they had an infrastructure advantage. And then that bid corporation disintegrates, and a new corporation to have Canada beat the rest of the world to win the Olympics, and we won that too. And that was really fun. I mean, really fun. And it was funny because it was kind of where Canada is today, sort of heading into potential recession based on tariffs in this case. In that case, it was just resource industry was going down, and BC was a very resource-based economy. And so the pitch was, hey, last time with my first business, right, Expo 86, the world was Calgary or Vancouver was in the doldrums, and a couple of guys got together and brought the world to Vancouver. Same thing here, except it's the whole world, and billions of people are going to be seeing it. So come on in and sign your checks, and away we go. So it was a real everybody getting involved in the community and the rebranding of Vancouver, which has changed dramatically ever since. It was really fun.
It's pretty insane. Have you always been into snow sports yourself, and have you always been an entrepreneur also? Like, why start all these companies?
To answer your first question, yeah, I've always loved skiing and water sports, kayaking and stuff like that. And then on the entrepreneur side, it was a seminal moment. Actually, I taught skiing in Europe for a winter, and then I was wanting to sail across the Atlantic, but all the boats were coming the other way because they all winter in the Caribbean and then come up to the Mediterranean. So I was thumbing around, and I met a really wealthy American. We were sitting above the Côte d'Azur, this cafe, and he says, "So what?" And he's smoking a big cigar. "What are you doing next, Sean?" And I go, "Well, I got to do my MBA." He says, "Why do you want to do your MBA?" I said, "Because I want to learn about business." And he points down to Monte Carlo. He says, "Half the people live down there in the Lucky Sperm Club. Another 50% are real entrepreneurs who had no education, no background, but they're there for a tax haven." Whoa. Did I lose you?
You lost your camera?
Yeah, maybe that's it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, let me try to restart.
Hang on. There.
There you go.
Okay.
We're
Sorry
back.
about that. Yeah. So he said, "How much are you going to spend on an MBA?" I said, "Probably 30 grand or so." He says, "Okay. So take half of that money, borrow from your uncle, your mom, or whatever you need to do, and start your business. And if you fail, you'll spend half the money and got 3 times the education. And if you're successful, you're on your way." So that's what I did. And that was my
Good
first business.
advice.
Yeah, very good advice.
But when
And
he
I
said
know,
50%, like, was he referring to Monaco? Like
yeah,
50%? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think that literally 50% in there? I would say like 80 to 90% are Lucky Sperm Club in Monaco.
at the time, it was there was a rush to Monaco of entrepreneurs, so it was getting filled up. I mean, he just took those numbers randomly. I obviously didn't have a poll, but he was just saying that unless you're in the Lucky Sperm Club, you're an entrepreneur, and the most successful ones.
And was that a good ROI of your money?
Yes, actually, it was. It was a very good ROI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean MBA's 30K. I mean back then could have got an ROI, but nowadays it's very low probability of ROI on an MBA. Let's talk about Outforce. Do you feel that in the AI age that we're in right now, do you feel that studies will scale? Do you think that most employees will survive in this agentic age?
That's a really good question. So Outforce is really what I built Outforce because I felt when I was building tech companies, which we haven't talked about yet, but that every time I wanted to hire an engineer, the good ones are already working, so you got to pull them out. It takes a long time. And so occasionally I didn't have that time, so I needed to outsource something. And then I had the opposite problem. There was too many choices and no filter on all the noise. So I decided to build a database on who's good at what and create some filter. And more importantly, who's good at what as an agency is only part of the equation. It's what team do they have available at the time you're asking that's most important. That takes a lot of due diligence and a lot of heavy lifting, but it does get to that point where you get a short list of good agencies. So going back to sorry, I forgot your question.
Yeah, the AI age, you feel that people will still hire humans, or it will be pure agentic model?
It'll never be pure agentic. In fact, I talked to a lot of CTOs, and one guy said the other day, "I'd be happy to charge $350 an hour just to fix anybody's meme code any day." So coding is really good if it's isolated, and not necessarily integrated. And QA is pretty good, but the integration with legacy systems or refactoring, it's a different story. So you're still going to need architects. You're still going to need great DevOps and great cloud engineers at the higher level. My concern is that no one is going to hire the junior level engineer, because that's where a lot of the agents can support the more senior engineer and make them more productive. So if we don't bring people into the business, then you're not going to create an intermediate engineer. You're not going to create a senior architect, and that's a problem. That could be a problem in the future.
Me coming back to your CMO story, which was pretty good. I think agents will definitely outperform even senior engineers by 100, 1,000x in the next couple of years. Just that the human politics, right? And the CTO not wanting to be replaced, that will be pretty hard. And laws and regulations, because I think once companies start to deploy agentic CTOs, that will check your full stack and outsource to other agents. It's like a multi-agentic system. I definitely think that teams and job teams will be replaced entirely, and jobs by the thousands, the tens of thousands will be sliced back. And I think we're only going to see agentic kick in Q3 and Q4 this year. So something relatively new, because AIs, I mean, you ask them questions, they respond with the right answer most of the time, but they cannot act right on these insights. So what would you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, in terms of personal productivity, it's massively disruptive and changing and getting better and better and better all the time. So underestimating the potential of the technology advancements is fool's game. But overestimating the ability of human behavior to change is another story. As you said, CTOs not wanting to get it. I mean, just think of that. I was doing my first technology company in the sort of the .com boom, and all these old traditional media companies were saying, Google, there wasn't even Google, it was just Yahoo and these pay-per-click companies, and they said, it's nothing, it's a dot. And sure enough, look what came up and blew them all away. But it didn't happen overnight. So you'll have a lot of senior engineering staff at large companies who are trusted advisors to the senior executive team. And they're saying, no, it's not, I don't trust this. I don't trust the data leaking. I don't trust there's all kinds of reasons to piss on it that would put blockages on deployment versus the ability. So yeah, technology goes way faster than human behavior. And I'd say there's probably a 3 to 5 year lag against that technology change based on humans being, quote unquote, in the way.
Yeah, certainly. Outforce, have you seen constant growth? Are people just hiring more and more agencies? Is the world still software rising itself? Software eats the world. Is that still going on, or has it slowed down in the last couple of years?
It slowed down. So my channel has been venture capital, because that was really great, at least for the couple of years when we started, where it was grow at any cost, and no engineers were available, and you had to look elsewhere, and cost considerations also factored in. That VC money started to dry up, so people started to cramp down. Our customers weren't buying new stuff, so they didn't need new products. So there was a slowdown through 24. And I've switched gears now into private equity, because two things. One, private equity is way more prescriptive as to how the company's going to be operating, because they got way more stake in the company, often buyout or high growth check equity. And they've got a shorter timeline. They say, 3 to 5 years, and we got to be at the next level. And we're going to do that through margin gains. Margin gains usually come through technology. And any company that has come from bootstrap to growth has a lot of technical debt. So when they want to do that change, you don't want to flip your whole team over onto the new tech stack. Maybe it was Ruby on Rails, and now they got to go to .NET. They've got to stay focused on supporting the customer, supporting the increasing number of tickets that are on the product itself. So bring in an agency and refactor. That's a lot of what we have. A lot of our key portfolio clients are doing, or rebuilding altogether. And then moving that portion of the engineering team that is suitable for the new product onto the new product. And away we go.
Last question. With the new administration in the US, have you seen shifts in if companies want to hire nationally and reshoring? Have you seen that? And how have you seen Canadian startups affected by that as of late?
Well, most of my business is stateside, with PE firms out of the United States, and VCs out of the United States. And most of them are very apologetic, to be honest, about what's going on. There's still always a cost consideration. And when people come to us, I say, look, don't come to me if you're only looking for cost, because it's really a trilemma. You can pick two, right? So you've got speed, quality, or cost. And if you're focused on cost, don't come to us, because you'll end up rebuilding whatever you're trying to build if you're just looking at cost. We bring quality at speed, in your choices of what agency you're going to use. Like we have no skin in that game. The client pays us, and the client chooses the agency, but we just shortlist it for them. And they're wildly skeptical at the first, because they think that anything built outside of Silicon Valley is not going to be the quality of Silicon Valley or New York or wherever they happen to be. And then they start to interview some of these agencies. And by the way, we have thousands of agencies in our database in the United States and in Canada. So outsourcing does not necessarily mean offshoring or even nearshoring. It could be right next door. But the quality and value that you're getting in lower cost countries, especially those that are in your same time zone or near your same time zone, is, oh gosh.
Your camera again.
Yeah, should I plug this in or something? Like, what is the deal here? Hang on. I don't know why it chokes out, because it should be connected.
Yeah, press stop cam and restart the camera.
Okay, but I just got a black screen here.
Oh.
Okay, so it's my you know what it is? It's my laptop. I need
That's
to
connected. Your laptop is connected to your iPhone, most probably, right?
Yeah.
Something
Yeah, exactly.
Like
okay, so I'll just keep them up.
yeah.
Sorry
You
about
can finish what you were saying.
that. Yeah, so lower cost, countries with lower cost base have great engineers, obviously at a lower cost base. But you've also got to consider cultural differences and things like that. If you go 12 hours away into India or Southeast Asia, you've also got a huge cultural difference with a hierarchical society where they sort of, and lots of people, so they're used to passing things along in more a waterfall approach versus, smaller countries in Eastern Europe where they're really agile and full stack developers with full scope and full product orientation. And that's total generalization. And it's Latin America and South America, somewhere in between. Obviously, there's phenomenal engineering done in India and sometimes shitty engineering done everywhere else. So it really depends on who you get.
Love it. Thank you, Sean. Where can people find out more about you?
Sean at Outforce.ai. And by the way, I've got all the cheat sheet and the playbooks on how to outsource, even if you don't use our service. All the good questions to ask, all the mistakes to avoid, and I'm publishing that next week. And so, if you want to just shoot me an email, I can send you the link and get you all that information. So you don't have to use our service if you don't want to.
Oh, Sean Languedoc.